Before that case, you represented Robert Blake, the actor,
Yes.
for over the murder of his wife, Bonnie Lee Bakley.
Yes.
So, explain the case and explain how you won this case.
Well, Robert Blake was charged with murder with special circumstances, which means you could face the death penalty if they choose. If you're charged with murder with special circumstances, the prosecution can either seek the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. And he'd been represented by another lawyer, a good friend of mine, very good lawyer, Harlan Braun. Robert was looking for a new lawyer. I was donating my time at a free legal clinic at First African Methodist Episcopal Church in South LA. And one of the other volunteer lawyers did transactional work for Robert Blake. And he said to me one day, "Mr. Blake would like to meet you. He's looking for a new attorney. Would you be willing to meet with him?" And I said I would. I met with him, had a couple of discussions, and to make a long story short, was chosen as his lead counsel. And at that point in time, this was the most extensive investigation into any case by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. The LAPD had exceeded, in terms of paperwork and time, the investigation into O.J. Simpson. They'd gone all around the country trying to find out everything they could about Robert Blake, about his films, about who he associated with, etc. And it was a very intensely investigated case. They charged O.J. Simpson right away with homicide, but in the Robert Blake case, they waited about a year before they arrested him. And then they immediately tried to prejudice the potential jury pool against him. The police chief announced that he had solved the crime, that kind of thing. And I dug into the evidence, and I began to see all sorts of problems. I mean, they had jumped to conclusions without proper investigation at all. And I felt the LAPD became enamored with publicity, enamored with the possibility of this being a high-profile case. In fact, at the crime scene, they invited a writer to come down as one of the first people. They said, "Come on down and see what's going on." And they were letting this writer do ride-alongs with them. And they really misjudged a lot of what had happened. Robert Blake had nothing to do with this. They were enamored with winning a big case, particularly after they'd lost Simpson. And he got a raw deal, in my opinion.
Okay, he was ultimately acquitted.
Yes.
He ended up filing for bankruptcy because I guess there was like $3 million in unpaid legal fees. Ultimately, was that part of the money that you were owed, or
no? What happened was there was a civil trial. He was acquitted in the criminal trial.
Oh, but he lost the civil trial.
And then there was a civil trial where they sued him for wrongful death to determine that he was liable or responsible for the death.
Like the OJ case.
And I didn't represent him in the civil trial. He was found liable in that trial.
Got it.
A ridiculously high judgment was awarded against him. It was eventually cut in half by a higher court. And I did not represent him in a bankruptcy proceeding. I'm not a bankruptcy lawyer.
Got it.